Today we are going to be learning about producers and consumers. These are build on what you already learned about herbivores, carnivores, and all the other different types of animals with what they are. First, we have a producer. A producer is an organism that can make its own food. It goes through the process of photosynthesis, meaning it uses sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide to convert all of that into energy that it uses. Producers can be in the ocean, such as the kelp that you see at the bottom left corner, or they can be trees, flowers. Any kind of plant is a producer. It only needs water, sunlight, and carbon dioxide in order to make its own energy. There are millions of producers in the world. Producers are then eaten by a consumer. You are a consumer. A consumer is an organism that obtains energy by feeding on other organisms. You are not able to make your own energy. You require other organisms to create energy. The top picture, the cow, is an herbivore. Cows eat grasses. Cows cannot make their own food. They have to eat other things like grasses to create energy. So the cow is an herbivore. At the bottom left, we have a zooplankton. Zooplankton eat phytoplankton, which phytoplankton is a producer. Zooplankton are in the ocean, and they are also consumers. Then we have a wolf here who is enjoying some kind of treat, and an orca, which we know eats fish. These are all examples of consumers because they obtain their energy by eating other organisms. We can see this in a food chain. A food chain always starts with the sun because the sun gives its energy to the producer. In this aquatic food chain, the algae is the producer. It requires the sunlight, it requires water, and the carbon dioxide that is in the water to create energy. The producer, the algae, is then eaten by the sea snail. We call the sea snail a primary consumer because it is the first level or a first level consumer. It is an herbivore because it is eating the algae. The sea snail is then eaten by the shrimp. This makes the shrimp a second level consumer because it eats the first level. It can also be called a secondary consumer. The shrimp is then eaten by the starfish, which means the starfish is a third level consumer or a tertiary consumer. The starfish is then eaten by the ray, meaning that the ray is a fourth level consumer. And finally, the ray is eaten by the orca or the killer whale, which is the fifth level consumer. We have one producer that is then eaten by the primary consumer. And then as we move up the food chain, it goes primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer, fourth level, and fifth level consumer. Another example of this is in this land food chain here. So we start with the corn or the maize that's a producer. The corn creates energy by going through photosynthesis using the sun, water, and carbon dioxide to create its energy. The energy is then transferred to the locust, which is the primary consumer. That makes the locust an herbivore. The herbivore, the locust, is then eaten by the secondary consumer, the lizard. The lizard is then eaten by the tertiary consumer, the snake. If you notice, the arrows always point in the direction through which the energy is flowing. The energy from the maize goes into the locust. The energy from the locust is used by the lizard. The energy from the lizard is used by the snake.